Hello and welcome to the 1895 podcast with me, Thomas D. Now, this week I may be alone here in our studio, but I have been joined on the line by two fantastic guests to this podcast. One will be familiar with the 1895 podcast, Christian, we had on last year, and we've also been joined by Emmanuel, both here representing GCE. Thanks to both of you for joining me today on the 1895 podcast. But I think instead of me introducing you and reading chapter and verse about your experience and your history within the industry, perhaps you want to introduce yourself. So Christian, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, and thanks for having me again. I'm always excited to be part of this podcast. Christian Borrie from GCE Medical, Director of Healthcare and responsible for driving our product portfolio throughout the world. I've been doing this with GCE since 2013 in some various roles, and it's super exciting to be here today.
Great, thank you, Christian, and we're delighted to have you on too. And Emmanuel, how about you? How's your experience within this industry?
Hi, Tom. Big thank you for having us, and pleasure to be joining here. So I'm the general manager for GCE Medical for Europe and rest of the world, which is India, China. So I have the pleasure to lead the teams across the different functions to drive, new, safer, more efficient products to our customers in the medical world. And I've been with ISAB GCE for 4 years now.
Fantastic. A wealth of experience joining me here on this podcast. Now, of course, the theme of this episode is going to be those medical gases. And we've spent a little bit of time at GasWorld focused on medical gases. We recently held a couple of webinars dedicated to the topic. So let's dive deeper into that topic and GCE's role within that subject. So I guess we should set the scene by looking at healthcare in a global context. So when you look at global healthcare infrastructure today, what major trends stand out to you? Is this in capacity? Is it in technology, demand for medical gases maybe, or is it all of the above, in fact?
No, thanks, Tom. I think you nailed it by using the word, medical infrastructure, and maybe with a little bit of background. GCE was very active in two product lines, one being the suction oxygen therapy in the hospitals. The other one was home care. And we had identified infrastructure as a very critical trend, to your point, which leads to medical gas, and where we invested heavily this year with the acquisition of Active in India and Delta P in Italy to create a global player, essentially in medical gases. And to your point on infrastructure, this is because we saw a fundamental acceleration in investments, especially in certain parts of the world, like India, typically, fueled by demographics, also fueled by more investments to take better care, of the people, of the population. So I would say the trend number one is clearly this acceleration in infrastructure investment, especially I would say in places like India. I think the trend number two that we see is increasing expectation from the customers, be it the hospitals, be it the installers, increasing expectation of support from manufacturers like us, which means expectations from support on having a full range that I'm sure Christian will develop, expectation on having stronger project support. When you start from scratch, a new hospital, or when you upgrade a hospital, there's no two same situations. And we see a lot of expectation in how to support the customers to come up with the right, the safe and cost-efficient solution to support them.
Great. Thanks, Manuel. And Christian, anything to add to that?
No, it's like Manuel said, we have it's a general acceleration in healthcare infrastructure, population growth, urbanization, and a lot of lessons learned from the pandemic from many, many regions, both in Europe and across the world, really.
Sure. And Emmanuel, I'd like to pick up on your responsibilities. You're responsible for Europe, India, China, the rest of the world, all of that included in your job title. So what regions are you seeing the biggest transformation in, and why is now the right time for that to be happening?
We see a lot of transformation, I would say, across all those regions. Obviously, we see more growth, put it simply. If you look at the pure investment, capex, I would say, in places like India, typically. But you touched on growth, but you also touched on transformation. I think we do see transformation as well in Europe, and Christian can expand into that. But we see increasing demand from our customers for end-to-end solutions, I would say. We're really moving from the components or the point solution to the full solution. I would say to ensure the best efficiency, to ensure the best safety throughout the chain. And this Europe is not immune to that. And we see that very much in the countries where we operate in Europe as well.
Sure. I think you've been teed up quite nicely there, Christian.
All right. So I think regions like India is a perfect example where the GC strategy really shines. I mean, there's rapid investments in healthcare facilities. The government has approved a big investment plan, and especially after oxygen shortages during COVID-19. It's really shown that hospitals and medical gas systems aren't just technical infrastructure, but really like vital for patient care and operational continuity. And that's a key thing. And why it's good to invest in systems that guarantee compliance. And India has a blend of influences. So during their development, that's been influenced by the NFPA standards in the US for that kind of hospitals. They have HTM influence from the Britain and input from Europe with ISO, plus their domestic CEDESCO standards that's setting sort of the base for safe and reliable gas equipment. So this is why GC can support Indian hospitals no matter of their infrastructure or regional style. And by the acquisition Emmanuel spoke about in Active, we also have the opportunity to support them with domestic products designed for their real needs.
Sure, and that leads us nicely into a few questions I've got about your complete systems approach. Recently on the GasWorld website, we outlined your new approach to hospital gas control, and that is what you described as from plant to patient. So what does this truly mean in practice?
What that means, Tom, is genuinely we took that perspective when looking at those acquisitions, right, of Active and Delta P, where talking to customers, talking to users, we really wanted to make sure that we align with what is it that they want. And I mentioned earlier this expectation from stronger support, including, I would say, end to end. So what that means in real world is we used to have a GC offering that was focused on the pipeline products, I would say, on the medical gas. And when we saw that request for combining pipeline with source to make sure that we can handle the entire flow of the gas or of the medical air, as we call it. So this is what it means. It means, adding products to make sure that we start from the plant. We start from the gas and we go all the way to the patient, and that includes our suction oxygen therapy products. So a little bit like in the utility world, like we don't do the production, but we do the transmission and we do the distribution all the way to behind the wall to the patient. And when doing that, we think that this knowledge, this intimacy allows us to be more efficient, more safe, and also easier to deal with from our customer standpoint, because we can be the one-stop shop throughout those products. I think that's the point number one. I think the point number two, Christian touched on the multiple standards that we now cover, which obviously is great in terms of global reach. I also want to double click a little bit into that, because to me this is a case of scalability. And when we assemble together the skills to drive those different standards. The reality is that we create a backbone, and that backbone is in R&D, the backbone is in quotation, and this backbone is going to be useful to all customers, not just the customers that want all standards, but what I'm trying to say is a customer that wants HTM or customers that want ISO is going to get that backbone of support for quotation, for R&D that is common to the other certifications.
And that's, if I will continue on that, Emmanuel, and spot on, I think I want to double down on the support we now can give on design and delivery of systems, meaning optimizing the products for that particular case. And even though we talk about different standards, they all come from the same base of providing safe medical gas pipeline systems, both from fire, both from patient safety or from users. So all of that is more or less built up on similar components, which we have in our range. And then we build it specifically for that standard because they have some differences between them in how you build that system. But we can build that out of the skilled R&D team who knows the system approach, quotation approach, the whole technology approach, and then we adjust it depending on the standard. So it gives us scalability and this thought leadership that we think our customers really, really will appreciate.
Sure, and I'd like to return to that theme of standards in a moment, but just going back to the full value chain that you provide, just how valuable is this to, say, a hospital that you are the one-stop shop, as you described it?
I mean, coming into that, the key thing here is, of course, if something happened, and we do our utmost to avoid that, but everything also, something always happens, and this is really where having this relationship with a one owner, you don't have to discuss if it's happened between the source equipment and the pipeline where the fault is, but we can be the one providing that exact support that is needed independently if it's happening in the source room or in the pipeline. And we also build our products so they fit together. They communicate. We can build them on the similar communication protocol to make sure that we can follow the product through, or the gas through the system, and also provide that redundancy. So if something breaks, there's one stop to go and get spare parts to fix it.
Correct. I think Christian is developing on the troubleshooting part, right? Where the purpose is to be able to provide a faster, more, I would say, higher level of comfort to the customer, that we can replace the parts or that we help if there's any challenge. But I would extend that before that point, Christian, into the hospital design. Like we've seen a number of large scale projects done through our new affiliates, and I really want to take that opportunity to congratulate the team from Delta P and Active for the business they built over years. They built a very nice position for both of them. And when working with them, we really saw that was our hypothesis, and it got proven true that they really helped customers on large scale projects, especially where you have, more complex, I would say, situations like export, in areas that are a bit less skilled, I would say. It really provides value to the customer or to the end user to come with that one-stop shop solution. And why is that? It's because you really save time, in my mind, in terms of designing the solution, as Christian said, so it makes life easier. So you save on interactions, you save on designing time and cost, and you also save on component production cost and transport, quite frankly, because you're able to offer the full range. And when the case is needed, the teams can even do some commissioning, right, or some confirmation that the installation is rightly set up. So that gives this extra level of comfort that you get the solution right from the beginning, from the design all the way to the implementation.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for those insights. And just to return to standards quickly, I know we've touched on it a little already. Just excuse my fairly broad question here, but how do you design a system that meets so many various standards? I'm thinking ISO, HTM, NFPA. You've got all these different standards across all these different regions with so many different unique environments. Just how do you balance all of that?
It's a good question, and yeah, as many other sectors, we like to have 3-4 digit abbreviations, right, to make it complex. But in reality, it's really, we adapt our standard products to fit these standard requirements. And the hospital always face challenges like regulatory complexity or operational efficiency and environmental impact. But standards help to set the baseline. So we of course review, and there are 3 big ones. So the UK standard HTM, the European standard ISO, and the US standard NFPA. So we are part of that committee, and we are understanding, where the needs comes from the actual production or the hospitals and those influences, and we push back on a few things that is not feasible to do, but in the end, like, we're trying to find a middle way where this standard can be implemented and actually be products produced to fit it. A great example, what we do is, like, we don't just meet the standard because that's a baseline. We of course are R&D guys trying to go beyond it. So one example is that we integrated a data-driven approach to ensure safety. So in this case, there's a valve that you can tamper with, and our system detects it before it becomes a critical issue. But without that safeguard, you might only discover it, when it's too late. So like when the doctor is preparing for surgery and nothing is indicated until they, connect the anesthesia machine or the ICU unit, and there's no gas. And then, because there was gas in the pipeline, waiting, but there's no flow. So this is things that we try to sort of develop above standard. But the standard itself, as I said before, it's an adaptation of more or less the similar things. So you can see 80% is similar with these 3 standards, and then you design for those differences.
Sure, thank you for that, Christian. And maybe if we can just get, I guess, one full example of what this complete systems approach looks like. You've both mentioned India as a key growth region. Tough question here, and I know it's going to be more complex than we're able to go in here, but what does a compliant and modern full system approach mean for customers within this region?
I think it's coming back to what Emmanuel said about the technical support. I will go into that perspective of new projects, because there's a lot of new projects in various sizes, and this is really where we can help to build the right bill of material for this hospital. What is needed, how many outlets, what is the capacity? Because we've seen in the past that some hospitals have been over-dimensioned and the opposite, right? So by being a thought leader in helping to design pipeline systems, you can give the correct amount of gas needed for the applications and also for the extensions if that's a plan. So I think that's where we see the value, and depending in India which standards they go for, we can help them with that, because different hospitals, as I said before, is relying on various standards to build the hospitals. So if there is extensions or new ones, we can help on that to make sure they get the right products and not over design it, because that increase cost, and both for, of course, to the capex, but also opex cost.
Of course, thank you for that, Christian. I'd like to now spend some time on the history of GCE and your experience within this industry. So Christian, I'm going to come to you first on this one. We've spoken to you before, and we know that GCE has got a long history of gas pressure and flow control. So how does having this heritage and this expertise behind you differentiate you in such a busy medical space?
Yes, I could probably talk for hours about, but let's keep it focused. I mean, GCE for decades, centuries almost, we led the way in gas pressure and flow control. It's literally in our name. GCE stands for gas control equipment. And we worked in industries where precision and reliability is absolutely non-negotiable, like semiconductors, critical laboratory gases, automotive, and food industry. So in this case, it's all about controlling gas pressure and flow with absolute precision. And this is what we applied the same expertise into healthcare. We've been actually doing this more than 60 years, so there's nothing new for us. But what we continue to do is to use this broader gas control experience, the skill set in all these different areas, from specialty to industrial gases, plus our friends at ESAB, and using all this thought leadership to bring this technology and these solutions to come up with smarter, more reliable products. So in general, I mean, we cover everything from gas generation with big oxygen generation in the plant, all the way through the hospital, as Emmanuel said, on pipeline, and all the way to the point of use. And then you click on the suction oxygen therapy, which we have various products depending on which application you need. If you need to provide high vacuum, low vacuum, and so on. And we also do this outside the hospital with the home care patients with portable oxygen concentrators to make sure we can provide oxygen at home for patients with home care respiratory diseases. And we equip ambulances to make sure we have these emergency kits ready, and ambulances provide oxygen. So it's really using all this experience to build those unique cases, because you start off that, Tom, that there's a lot of regular and regional differences. So we use all this experience to keep our core by providing safe equipment in gas control equipment.
Sure. And Emmanuel, just to bring you in on this one, why is this deep expertise that Christian's just explained, why is that getting more critical now than ever in this healthcare environment?
No, it's a good one, Tom, and this really, I would really ground it into the growth plan that we built together with the support of ESAB as the parent group and sole shareholder, which has been very, very supportive. But basically, I would say 3-4 years back, we did that step back on the applications that we have on gas control, and Christian explained well I would say the industrial history or DNA of GCE, and GCE had made very, very good headways into medical, obviously, through suction oxygen therapy, through portable concentrators, and really when doing that step back, on where are our customers, what we saw is a lot more growth, a lot more complexity coming from the medical world as an application. And this is where we took that strong investment view. And again, with the strong support of ESAB and the very hard dedication of all the teams, but we took the strong view of saying, hey, this is now the time to really dedicate, I would say, the business, the medical as an application by itself, and which is pretty obvious, because regulatory has nothing to do between medical and industrial, obviously. Quality the fundamentals are the same, but the expectations are different. The application knowledge and intimacy that Christian developed, through the different standards on medical gas is also very, very different. So long story short, we made that strong view of saying, let's dedicate the medical as an application to make sure that we offer to our customers the level of new product, the level of regulatory, the level of support that really matches their business. The reality, I would say, is, and that was before my time, so I don't have a lot to brag. I would really give credit to the team. The reality is that 80% of that was already dedicated, I would say. We already had many dedicated sales, regulatory was already dedicated, but we took that extra mile to really look at it as a dedicated application. And again, with this end-to-end view from sales to R&D, to production, to regulatory, to quality, to make sure that we match the customer's request and that we can be faster, and better to serve them.
Sure, thank you for that. Now, I'm very conscious of the time that I have with you here, so I'm going to skip forward here to a few questions about the quality and the market needs. So, what challenges do you face when it comes to maintaining that same level of quality in, we've discussed some rapidly growing regions here today. So, how does that compare to long-established markets?
For us, it's no difference. We produce our products as we always done, with the highest quality in mind, and we're using our parent company ESAB's standardized process of EBX, ESAB Business Excellence, to make sure products have the same quality all over the world, very standardized production to make sure, and standardized testing is key to make sure we don't, release any products that doesn't meet the standard requirements we have, and any factory we set up, we have the same rules for this.
Yeah, I agree, Christian. I think the approach is obviously the same. I think obviously we do pay even more extra focus, on those remote shipments that we have, and we do have some special procedures to make sure that we ensure continuity, we ensure extra, spares, extra support in case something doesn't go according to the plan for those further remote shipments, I would say.
Sure, and as you were saying that, I was thinking back to the medical gases webinar that we held quite recently, and one of the big areas for discussion was those gaps in medical gas infrastructure. So where do you see the biggest gaps today, and how are you hoping to address those as well?
I mean, I read this as a bit, or I hear you're saying this. There are a lot of gaps. I'm seeing it from product point of view, where we see the monitoring of system and leakages through the system are the biggest gap when it comes to the medical central gas or the pipeline system design. So this is where, and this leads to either a lot of breaks into the process and interruption of the production or of the caregiving. It leads to higher use of gas, which leads to then more changing of cylinders, and then that leads, of course, to higher cost and environmental effects. So this is where I see the sort of reactive approach to gas control. So medical gas control is my biggest challenge, and this is why we spend a lot of time on monitoring and alarms and different kind of signals to make sure that any deviation is viewed and been alarmed if it goes outside of the regular production of gas.
Sure, and as we come to the end, or towards the end of this conversation, I guess we should cover why, in fact, this matters, because it's easy to get tied down in, conversations about technology and conversations about, standards. But when you think about the systems that you build, how do you connect them back to the patient and that human element at the end of the chain?
No, that's a very good. I can start, Emmanuel. It's a very good question, and you're spot on. I mean, we're very technology oriented as engineers, but medical gas systems aren't just technical infrastructure. They're like the foundation for patient safety and clinical confidence. And every leak prevented, or every compliance met, and every improvement beyond the norm, it translates into safe surgeries and uninterrupted care. And that's peace of mind for providers and protection of patients. because there's a lot of planning going on to make sure that patients get the right time for surgery and so on. And gas is like it's like your heating system at home, right? I think I had the same analogy last time, that you don't notice it until it fails, and then you really notice it, right? So, but in healthcare, failure isn't really an option, and that's why we design the systems with, data-driven alarm protocols, redundancy, 1, 2, even 3 sources to back them up. Because issues are detected before they become a problem, then you're good. So the goal is simple, right? You shouldn't have to think about it. And that's what we do every day, and work for meeting standards, exceeding standards, and making sure the system signals if something happens, because unfortunately something always does.
Sure. And Emmanuel, I could see you had something to add there, nodding along to Christian.
I know I fully concur. I think Christian really nailed it. I would just reference what Amol said in a previous podcast. I think it's the beauty of medical gas, right? It's both infrastructure and it's a drug at the same time. And I'm stating the obvious, but this is why there's so much sense of purpose that we are bringing. And I would just double click on what Christian said and make a little difference between the user, and the installer or the customer. I think what we want to do is to make it seamless, as you said, Christian, for the user, for the patient, where they don't even need to notice. And at the same time, we are very eager to engage, with the installers, with the designers, into how do we improve the efficiency of the full system. I think this is the fascinating topic. Around how do we build something that is not just even safer, but more efficient, in a better way, day after day. And we see, very, very strong avenues for it.
Absolutely. And to wrap up, I'm going to come to both of you for one look towards the future and for what's next. So what does excite you most about the future of medical gases and that continued innovation and continued growth as well? Christian, I'll give that to you first.
Yeah, since I leave the growth to Emmanuel here, but from product point of view, I can't, not talking about AI here. It's really about, starting to get more measure points, right? We're really good in measure pressure as of today, but we want to be better in measuring flow. It's something that we really can start, and then I come back to the leakages that's happening in every joint, more or less, in the outlets. If we can start to measure that, understanding, we can reduce the waste of gas, meaning that we can reduce cost, we can improve efficiency, we can help hospitals to not have, spending money on something that is not being used, and also to help installers to understand preventative maintenance before it happens. So it's something that I want to double click on, and I'm really excited. And we already have that in the group, so keen on teaming up with all our engineers to build on that.
Exciting times ahead, and exciting times that we'll be keeping an eye on at GasWorld. And Emmanuel, what excites you from that growth side?
Yeah, I would say, building on what was said, I think it's a combination of, I would say, efficiency, integration, simplicity. At the end of the day, I think what we see is this is, again, like this is both an infrastructure and a drug. This is paramount to carrying those procedures. And the exciting piece is to move from this individual product discussion to this full solution performance, which is really where we will be able to collectively make the gains, right? Make the gains on saving on any leakages, if any, or of getting more efficiency, of getting more visibility, making sure that we at our humble level are part of this upgrade, I would say, of the industry, and making sure that people at the hospitals, people at the installers, people at the designer level spend time on the more value-added topics, because they can rely basically on us, making our part of that collective upgrade, which is this more efficient, more simple, more integrated solution, essentially.
Fantastic. Well, Christian, Emmanuel, thank you for taking time out of your day and joining me on the 1895 podcast. Always delighted to have GCE on, and perhaps we could catch up again sometime next year. To those listening, if you want to keep an eye out for that in your inbox, then do please like, follow and share the 1895 podcast, and we'll be back again next time.